The little black travel bag looked ordinary, but the trembling hands holding it were not. A woman with tired eyes and a face carrying the weight of countless sleepless nights stopped in front of a stranger on a crowded train station platform. She looked over her shoulder again and again, as though she feared someone was following her. Tears quietly filled her eyes before she whispered a simple request. She asked if he could hold her bag for just 2 minutes because she needed to make one quick phone call. Before the man could even wonder why she looked so frightened, she disappeared into the sea of people. 2 minutes became 10. 10 became 30. An hour passed. The station slowly emptied, but she never returned. What was inside the bag would change one man's life forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives, second chances matter, and even one good decision can rewrite someone's future, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks so you never miss another unforgettable journey of compassion. Daniel Harper had never imagined that an ordinary Tuesday afternoon would become the dividing line between the life he had known and the life he would eventually build. He was 43 years old, worked as a maintenance technician, and had lived a quiet existence after losing his wife 3 years earlier. Since then, every day felt almost identical. He woke before sunrise, worked long shifts repairing broken equipment, returned to his empty apartment, heated a frozen dinner, watched television without paying attention, and fell asleep wondering why life had become so silent. His daughter had moved overseas after college, promising to visit often, but years had slipped away faster than either of them expected. Phone calls became shorter, holidays became lonely, and Daniel slowly accepted that loneliness had become his closest companion. The train station had become his favorite place to sit after work. It reminded him that life continued moving even when his own seemed frozen. He enjoyed watching strangers rushing toward dreams, reunions, vacations, or opportunities. Every passing face carried a story that he would never know. That afternoon seemed no different until the frightened woman approached him with the black bag. She had looked exhausted but dignified. Her clothes were clean although slightly worn. Her hair had been hurriedly tied back, and she clutched the bag with surprising strength, almost as though letting go hurt her more than holding it. When she finally placed it into Daniel's hands, she gave one grateful smile that somehow carried sadness, relief, fear, and hope all at once. Then she vanished. At first Daniel assumed she had become delayed. Perhaps the phone line was busy. Perhaps she had met someone unexpectedly. Perhaps she had simply missed him while returning. He waited patiently. As darkness covered the city, concern slowly replaced patience. Security officers walked through the station asking if anyone had seen suspicious luggage. Daniel nervously explained everything. They searched the station for the woman but found nothing. Camera recordings showed her walking toward one exit before disappearing beyond the station entrance. No one saw where she went after that. Authorities carefully inspected the bag. Instead of danger, they found something far more heartbreaking. Inside were neatly folded children's clothes, a small stuffed rabbit with one missing ear, family photographs, several legal documents, a faded notebook, and an envelope with Daniel's name written across the front in shaky handwriting. Daniel stared in disbelief. He had never met the woman before. His hands trembled as he slowly opened the envelope. The letter explained everything. Her name was Emily Carter. She wrote that she had spent weeks watching people at the station, searching for someone whose face showed kindness instead of impatience. She believed Daniel was that person. She apologized for placing such an enormous burden on a stranger, but she had run out of options. She explained that powerful people had destroyed her family's life through lies and financial fraud. After years of fighting endless legal battles, she had lost nearly everything. Her husband had passed away from illness during the stress, leaving her alone to raise her 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Recently she had begun receiving frightening anonymous messages warning her to stop asking questions about missing evidence connected to the case. She no longer knew whom she could trust. The bag contained every important memory her daughter still possessed. Emily believed someone might soon try to take everything from them. She hoped she was wrong, but if she failed to return, she begged Daniel to protect the bag until her daughter could someday claim it. She included copies of documents proving Lily's identity, childhood photographs, school certificates, and letters written by her late father. She ended by asking Daniel not to search for her immediately because doing so might place him in danger. Daniel could hardly breathe after reading the final sentence. He wanted to believe the woman would still return the next morning. She never did. Days turned into weeks. Police investigations produced almost nothing. Emily Carter seemed to have disappeared without leaving another trace. Daniel could have handed everything to the authorities and walked away. Many people told him exactly that. They reminded him it was not his responsibility. He had enough problems already. But every night he remembered Emily's frightened eyes and the trust she had placed in someone she did not even know. That trust became impossible to ignore. He rented a small storage locker where he carefully preserved every item inside the bag. He scanned every document into digital copies. He repaired the torn stuffed rabbit by carefully sewing its ear back into place. He bought protective sleeves for the family photographs. Without realizing it, Daniel had begun caring for memories that belonged to people he had never met. Months later, curiosity finally overcame fear. Daniel quietly began researching Emily's story. Newspaper archives revealed fragments matching her letter. Her husband had indeed worked for a financial consulting company that collapsed after investigators uncovered massive fraud involving millions of dollars. Several witnesses had suddenly withdrawn their statements. Cases had quietly disappeared. Victims were left without justice while influential people avoided consequences. Daniel was no detective. He made mistakes. He followed false leads. Some days he nearly gave up. Yet each setback reminded him why Emily had trusted a stranger instead of surrendering her daughter's future. One rainy afternoon nearly a year later, Daniel visited an orphan support center while volunteering to repair broken heating equipment. On one wall hung children's drawings. One picture stopped him in his tracks. It showed a little girl holding a stuffed rabbit with one missing ear. His heart nearly stopped. The volunteer coordinator explained that the drawing belonged to a quiet 7-year-old named Lily. She had recently entered temporary care after relatives could no longer provide a stable home. She rarely smiled and almost never spoke about her mother. Daniel could barely believe what he had discovered. Legal procedures prevented immediate contact, but social workers carefully reviewed the documents Daniel had preserved. Every photograph, certificate, and handwritten letter matched Lily's records. For the first time since Emily vanished, someone possessed proof connecting Lily to her family history. When Daniel finally met Lily, he did not introduce himself as a hero. He simply placed the repaired stuffed rabbit onto the table. The little girl's eyes widened with disbelief before tears quietly rolled down her cheeks. She hugged the rabbit so tightly that it seemed the world itself had returned to her. Without saying many words, she finally believed someone had protected the last pieces of her family exactly as her mother had hoped. The following months transformed both of their lives. Daniel became a regular visitor. He attended school performances, helped with homework, and celebrated birthdays that otherwise might have passed unnoticed. Lily slowly laughed again. She planted flowers outside the children's center because her mother had loved gardens. Daniel found himself smiling more often than he had since losing his own wife. Eventually social services asked whether he would consider becoming Lily's guardian. Fear immediately entered his heart. He questioned his age, his finances, and his ability to become a parent again after so many lonely years. But every doubt disappeared when he remembered one simple truth. Emily had trusted him before she even knew his name. Months of evaluations followed. Daniel improved his apartment, completed parenting courses, and prepared a bedroom filled with books, warm blankets, and bright colors. He wanted Lily to feel that someone had been waiting for her all along. The day she finally carried her small suitcase into his home, neither of them needed many words. Home was no longer just a place. It had become the people who refused to give up on each other. Years quietly passed. Daniel continued searching for answers about Emily's disappearance, although hope slowly faded. Then an investigative journalist contacted him unexpectedly. Newly uncovered evidence had reopened several old corruption cases connected to Emily's husband's company. Witnesses finally came forward. Hidden financial records surfaced. Several influential individuals faced prosecution after years of avoiding responsibility. Although Emily herself was never found, investigators officially recognized that her warnings had been genuine. Her courage helped expose a network that had harmed countless innocent families. Daniel stood beside Lily as the court publicly honored Emily's determination. The little girl, now a confident young teenager, carried the same quiet strength her mother once showed inside that crowded train station. At the ceremony, Lily held the old black travel bag in her hands. It no longer represented abandonment. It represented trust. It represented sacrifice. It represented a mother's final act of love. Daniel often wondered why Emily had chosen him instead of someone else. Perhaps she noticed the sadness in his eyes because she carried the same sadness herself. Perhaps kindness recognizes kindness long before words are spoken. Whatever the reason, one simple request at a train station rescued two broken lives instead of one. The greatest miracles rarely arrive with loud celebrations. Sometimes they begin with an ordinary bag, a frightened stranger, and a choice to care when walking away would have been easier. Kindness often feels small in the moment, but years later it becomes the reason someone still believes the world contains good people. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who still believes in compassion, subscribe to Kindness Speaks, and let this message remind others that even the smallest act of kindness can echo across generations.